I'm noticing that there's a lot of there's a lot more talk about the horrible conditions in Gaza coming from mainstream news. I think because, as I said before, the most like undeniable type of crime that you can commit is restriction of aid, and the impact of said crimes would be obviously famine. And now that widespread famine is impossible to avoid, you have even the likes of BBC covering it, and you have Western outlets like finally talking about it. Now, one might say this is too little too late, and I do understand where you're coming from if you were to say such a thing, but it's not lost on me, let's just say, that I'm not oblivious. I am noticing that there's like a lot more people being like, there's too much famine, come on. And as a consequence of that, you get Western nations offering like little, like drip feeding little gifts, like Palestinian state recognition, stuff like that, you know?
Coming out of Gaza as Israel continues to hold up aid trucks at the border. Our cameras filmed inside.
This guy said they're not blaming Israel. The first word coming out of Good Morning America, the Good Morning America anchor's mouth was, Israel is holding up aid trucks at the border. You would be wrong. I mean, you wouldn't be wrong, sorry, under normal circumstances. But no, they absolutely are saying that, which is, again, unique. Not only are they talking about the horrifying conditions on the ground, but they're also talking about who's responsible for it. Many of the mainstream outlets still aren't going in that direction, where they'll still act like it's a natural disaster or some shit. But like, honestly, I mean, it's too little, too late for sure. But I'll still, like I've said, I still welcome it. I welcome this change, regardless of how delayed it is, because it's not only a disservice to the victims so far, but it's consequential because it might prevent further victims down the line. That's the way I see it.
Our cameras filmed inside a children's ward at a hospital in central Gaza, and the scenes were haunting. According to the Director General of the Al-Shifa Medical Complex, 70,000 children have now entered the stage of acute malnutrition. 50,000 are on the brink of complete starvation. An American doctor volunteering in Gaza telling us every patient he is treating at Nasser Hospital is malnourished, and over 100 aid groups are warning of mass starvation. Now, Israel blames Hamas, saying they've been stealing food and engineering food shortages. An internal U.S. government review, though, failed to find any evidence that Hamas was engaged in widespread diversion of assistance.
Yeah, I mean, dude, Ross doubt that. How Israel's war became unjust. I mean, if that's not a tide shift, I don't know what to say. I don't know what would look like a tide shift to you. Like, Ross Douthat is a fucking straightforward defender of all of Israel's war crimes. So it's like even now he's saying became, right? Like as though this is a new change of pace. As though this is a new attitude shift. It's not. I think people need to recognize that this is people need to recognize that this is because the public pressure is getting to the public pressure has gotten to a point where it's like impossible to deny. And not only is it impossible to deny, but like the pendulum has swung in the other direction, where I think there will be a future where it'll be more consequential for you to come across as pro-Israel than pro-Palestinian. It already is that in public for like the average person, depending on which circles you operate in. But for most normal people, if you're just like still at this point saying anything that's like even remotely pro-Israel, or even look at the Nelk boys, right? Like they tried to say, oh, we just, he's a foreign politician. Like, what do you mean? What's the problem? And even then, this right-wing, relatively young audience was not taking it, where they're like, what the fuck do you mean he's just a regular politician? It's like saying Adolf Hitler is just a regular politician. He was a foreign leader, So I think for average folk, The pendulum has already swung, and now you're seeing the media play catch up with that shift. You think it's impossible to deny yet? The authorities find it manageable to oppress? No, I think it's a cat's out of the bag situation for months at this point. They're just playing catch up because they wanted to hold on to this idea that they could nip this in the bud for as long as they possibly could, but they cannot. That's the point. Is the lobby money drying up? No, that's not the case. No, this is purely a direct consequence of people consistently engaging in advocacy, consistently protesting. That's it. Because people could not deal with the atrocities that they were seeing, and there needs to be a pressure valve, and that pressure valve never came. There was never a moment of respite. And now it's gotten to a point where it's impossible. It's impossible to go around and be pro-Israel. That's part of the reason why, even though you see musicians getting banned still, or deplatforming initiatives, or even the desperate hanger-ons that try to still attack like pro-Palestinian content creators and whatnot in the spaces that we occupy, ultimately most people don't fuck with that at all. They're just like, yeah, dude, shut up. It's done. It's over. It's done. And now the last bastion of Israel defense, the New York Times, even or mainstream press, is even swinging in the opposite direction. Very different prospect for Israel's future than it looked like on October 7, like post October 7. But remember, just like this is the exact same case of this is the exact same situation with the immigration raids. Before it happens, people think they want it. Once it starts happening, people realize maybe this is not something I wanted. But even if the Democrats don't say anything about it, people get so angry and so resentful at the administration that's conducting these operations that they take it to the fucking streets. And then that public pressure campaign inevitably changes other people's perspectives as well. The media starts covering it, and it becomes impossible to avoid. That's why I always say you have to become undeniable. You have to become unavoidable. You have to be a force for good, even when people don't want to hear it, even when people don't want to see it, or people in positions of power have their careers and their jobs simply because they can expertly turn a blind eye to these atrocities. That's it.
Now, aid airdrops could soon be starting up again. A top UN official warning that airdrops are the most expensive and inefficient way to deliver aid. Meanwhile, ceasefire negotiations abruptly ending, the U.S. pulling out of those talks, saying Hamas does not appear to be negotiating in good faith. The U.S. and Israel are now considering what they're calling alternative options, but it's still unclear what those are. Janae?
I mean, there's one option,
Those images are devastating, Inez, but nothing compared to the reality of what's happening there. Thank you for that reporting.
First of all, how urgent is the goal of bringing the hostages home if everyone in Gaza is starving, some to death right now? Listen, if you go to CNN's homepage, we keep a live blog going every day of Gaza headlines. And it's hard to see horrific.
This is crazy. As Gaza starves, the world watches and waits. CNN? It feels like you're watching my broadcast like a year ago.
Headline after horrific headline populate the page this week. And that's keeping in mind that the headlines were horrible on October 7th, and they have been every day since, and yet they're getting worse. You see some of them here. And add to this that the UN says
this is the front page of the Independent, neither dead nor alive. Today's front page on the Independent. You can download a digital newspaper. Palestinians in Gaza have become walking corpses. UN agency as 6,000 trucks with food and medical supplies wait to enter while Israel limits access for humanitarian aid. Yeah, we're getting to the one day everyone will have been against this moment. Yeah. Breaking news, Israeli military officials say they have no proof Hamas routinely steals UN aid, undercutting a claim Israel has used to limit food for Gaza. I don't really understand where that's coming from, because the American military has also made it known. There's a bunch of leaks that are coming out now And I don't know what the purpose of this is, but it is crazy that like U.S. aid revelations. Chatter, you have been literally fucking auto-modded like 11 times. I have spoken about Handala. I will continue to spoke about it. Please stop fucking spamming it. You keep getting timed out over and over again. Like, the purpose of Handala and the Freedom Flotilla is to bring in fucking humanitarian aid to offer respite to the crisis that I'm currently covering, which is widespread famine, carefully crafted and calculated by the Israeli state. Okay? God damn, dude. Holy fuck.
That starving people in Gaza are beginning to look like walking corpses. Doctors Without Borders says that the rates of severe malnutrition in children under 5 in its clinics have tripled in just the last 2 weeks. And we see all that and wonder, what are the world's leaders doing about it? And for now, it seems like they're watching along with the rest of us. The UN made the point this week that people are being starved while a few kilometers away, supermarkets are loaded with food. Israel says that they'll allow other countries to drop aid into Gaza from the air in the next few days, but the UN warns that that method is costly and it's dangerous. And talks for a ceasefire, they're not going well either. President Trump blames Hamas for the decision by the U.S. to pull back from talks. Watch.
They pulled out of Gaza. They pulled out in terms of negotiating. It was too bad. Hamas.
This is literally the same exact shit that Anthony Blinken and Joe Biden did, by the way. Like, constantly dangling a bullshit ceasefire that's not a ceasefire at all, offering side concessions to Israel to attack again, and then Israel blowing up the peace talks and ceasefire talks because they had no interest in doing so, and then turning around and going on television and being like, well, Hamas did it again. They fucked up the peace talks again. It's insane. And if on the one hand, CNN and all of the news broadcasters, if you have people in this chat right now that work at these places, if you are finally able to get a word in edgewise, okay, if you're finally able to have your voices be heard, your criticisms be heard by your editors, explain to them that the population broadly understands that if you're saying, oh, how is Gaza starving? And you're finally coming to that conclusion, you're finally actually covering that sort of shit. They also understand the responsibility that CNN and other mainstream institutions hold in terms of massaging the public opinion and failing to do so, really. So if you're going to cover this, if you're going to cover the situation on the ground with the accuracy that you're finally getting around to, then also covered the fucking back and forth with accuracy as well. The idea that this is Hamas's fucking problem or Hamas's responsibility is so ridiculous. There's only one party here that is keeping the Palestinians in famine conditions, and that is Israel. And there's one party that has power over Israel to get them to stop doing this, and that's America. Okay? It's ridiculous to still play this fucking song and dance 22 months in, while on the one hand, you're recognizing that the Palestinians are starving, and on the other hand, you're like, who's doing it? I don't know. And then you also mention what Trump is saying about who's responsible as though it's the truth. Yeah, I saw Anthony Blinken's fucking insane statements, but expected statements on the matter as well. Yeah, here, if you want to know, the Democrats are exactly the same on this issue.
But I wish as well that those who understandably have been so moved and motivated by everything that's happened since October 7th, if they'd spent just maybe 10% of their time calling on Hamas, demanding Hamas put down its arms, give up the hostages, stop what it's doing. Maybe if the world had done that, we'd also be in a different place. But to come to your question, but I wish as well that those who understandably
fucking asshole, a butcher in his own right,
been so
From his mansion in Cambridge Road, the disgraced Tony Blinken blames anti-war protesters for the continuation of Israel's war on Gaza. Remember, it was Blinken who advanced the Israeli attack on UNRWA and ended its funding, setting the stage for famine. No, this isn't rage bait, dude. This is unironically what these guys are trying to get you to believe, and it's failing, but it doesn't matter. That isn't stopping them.
Hamas didn't really want to make a deal. I think they want to die, and it's very, very bad. And it got to be to a point where you're going to have to finish the job. They really, they asked for things. Don't forget, we got a lot of hostages out. So now we're down to the final hostages, and they know what happens after you get the final hostages. And basically, because of that, they really didn't want to make a deal.
Israel Prime Minister says that alternative options are being considered to bring hostages home and end Hamas's rule in Gaza. Israel says that Hamas, and we'll remind you here, it is a terrorist group, is responsible for the lack of food and medicine.
This idea.
Okay, this fucking coverage is insane. Never mind, I take it back. Okay, they're psychotic. Never mind. I thought that this was like serious and straightforward for once. That's crazy.
Of famine and starvation has been thrown at us consistently on a weekly basis for the last 2 years now. It has never come to pass. So these are false warnings which come from these aid organizations. And I also would say that where there is hunger in Gaza, it is hunger orchestrated by Hamas.
In the meantime, Egypt and Qatar, they say that they are still working towards a ceasefire.
I spoke too soon. Yeah, never mind. I spoke too soon. That's crazy. He's just going to let that sit? No counter to that? Incredible.
Dr. Bashar Baba is with us live from Doha. He's had a role in these talks to reach a ceasefire, and he is the chairman of Arab Americans for Peace, formerly known as Arab Americans for Trump. Welcome back to the show. I thank you for your time. You supported this president before the election. You support him now. You said that you were certain the president would end this war, that things would change in Gaza, the hostages would come home. When you look at the pictures that we share this morning, what's your assessment of the president's job performance in doing what you said he would be able to do?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And secondly, I just want to emphasize that I'm speaking on my own behalf. I do not represent anyone, especially the US government. So having said that, I think what we are seeing is that there are two different approaches to the conflict. One whereby one strategy is to find what is the minimum acceptable situation to both sides, meaning to the Israelis and to Hamas. And when then you would go into negotiations during the 60-day ceasefire period and flush out the details. Now, Hamas's approach has been to insert new details or conditions.
That's the guy you have? That's the guy you have on to talk, a pro-Trump guy who's here talking about the conditions that Hamas has inserted? Brother, this is the worst piece of coverage you could possibly do. They just fucking totally fucking baited and switched us with this. It was a real bait and switch. I saw that as Gaza stars, the world watches and waits, not realizing that they were going to angle their coverage into the direction of like, this is Hamas's doing and Hamas's responsibility. I'm genuinely shocked at how depraved these fucking institutions are.
While they're negotiating. Now, we're saying you cannot do that when people are dying. Let's get a ceasefire in place. You won't get everything that you want, but let's get a ceasefire in place and then talk about the details during...
Israel doesn't want to do a ceasefire, man. Hamas wants a ceasefire. Israel doesn't. I mean, this guy he might as well be a fucking agent of Israel. He might as well be David Lammy himself, the way he's talking over here. This is crazy.
The ceasefire.
Okay, Dr. Baba, let me flip this. You say that Hamas cannot add these new conditions while people are dying. My question is, why can't these people get food and fuel and medicine as these
He's such a fucking Israel Trump dick rider that he got the CNN anchor to be like, why can't they get food, man?
terms are negotiated?
I agree with you 100%. I mean, I get tons of messages from people in Gaza begging for food. Some people have said, we wish that a nuclear bomb would hit us so that this suffering, starvation ends. Now, the Israelis control the flow of aid into Gaza. Nobody else does. Nothing gets into Gaza without Israeli approval. Now, the United Nations have said that they wanted secure passages for their trucks to go into Gaza. And the Israelis have not provided the security for those trucks. So we're in a bind right now. People are dying. Israel has to realize that it has a significant responsibility to end this starvation in Gaza. It's totally unacceptable. There has never been a war like this with starvation in the 20th or 21st century.
Now,
people are suffering and they need food.
You do not represent the U.S. government, and I accept that. And I hope I didn't, in the intro, suggest that you are a representative of the U.S. government. You are a supporter of the president. I want you to listen to a member of his administration, though. This is the deputy spokesman for the State Department on aid and what they say is Hamas looting. This was Thursday of this week.
In terms of the food, is that Hamas, through looting the food, has led to weaponization. They are weaponizing aid when they are able to. We have a system in place attempting to get as much aid into Gaza as possible in a way where it is not being looted by Hamas. That is the reality that we're seeing. That is the reality that we're pushing for, trying to get as much
Well, good thing USAID also completely contradicted this testimony that's coming from this fucking lying piece of shit.
aid in there as we possibly can.
That was Thursday. On Friday, CNN got its hand on a report, an internal USAID report that said that there is no evidence of widespread Hamas looting. There was no indication that there was a systemic loss due to Hamas interference.
Oh my God, Bibi tried to go on Joe Rogan, and even Joe Rogan was like, nah, makes sense.
Or theft or diversion, according to a source close to the report. How can both be true? You support this administration, this president. They're telling us that Hamas is stealing the food when they know that there is no evidence of it happening.
Well, listen, I see the pictures when trucks go in. I mean, the Egyptians told me that 3 days ago, they sent in 15 trucks of food. And those trucks were able to get in for 2 or 3 kilometers inside Gaza. And then a swarm of hungry people got into those trucks, took away everything because they're hungry. And so that is what I see. I'm not sitting in Gaza, but these are the pictures that I see. I hear from people that their brothers and sons go to find the aid trucks, and many of them wonder if they will ever come back alive, because it's a dangerous thing to go to the aid trucks. So, I mean, listen, it's not a political situation. The situation with food is humanitarian. Food has to get in irrespective of who puts what on whose blame. It's irrespective of that. Food has to get in. People are dying and people are starving. And that's a reality.
Dr. Baba, when I first spoke with you, this was before the 2024 election, your first appearance on the show. You told me that you were certain, and these are your words, not mine, that Donald Trump strikes fear into the heart of Benjamin Netanyahu, that he can influence him. And so when you suggest that this is only Netanyahu, it was you who told me on this show that Donald Trump had the influence to get the prime minister to do what he wanted. I want to also read something from before the inauguration. This is November 20th, 2023, an op-ed that you published. And you wrote this. If the fight goes on for an extended period, the number of Palestinian casualties will rise to the point that the world's rage will fall upon Israel and those who support it. The Israeli military, with all its sophisticated and advanced military equipment, is not heroic in killing people stranded in Gaza, where no place is safe and where it is an open-air killing field. Your words. Is the U.S. now a rightful target of the world's rage, as you described it?
Listen, I am, I'm confident.
Listen, he's a bitch. Okay? He's a bitch. He's a pussy. Yes. Perhaps even a grifter or a charlatan. Yeah. He presented himself, he stuck his neck out thinking that Trump was going to save the Palestinians, and he didn't. So now he has to sit there and be like, Hamas is making ridiculous demands.
That the president is looking for a resolution to this conflict. I'm confident that the president does not want to see people hungry. At the same time, I am confident that he's working on getting food in.
Oh, is he working tirelessly around the clock for a ceasefire? Thanks, man.
I wonder if you feel like this moment, these images that are coming out about the humanitarian situation is, in fact, an inflection point.
Why did it take this long? I mean, in November of last year, the International Criminal Court issued a warrant for the arrest of Benjamin Netanyahu for the war crime of starvation. 8 months ago, before Israel cut off all food, all water, all electricity into the Gaza Strip for 3 months. And to say the United States is silent, it's much, much worse than that. We are profoundly complicit and deeply responsible. It is our weapons that enforce this starvation. It is our diplomatic efforts that prevent international justice from being done. The blood is on our hands as Americans because it is our weapons that is responsible for those children starving to death.
No blood for the hands of Hamas?
Hamas has
Is
lots
there no
of...
blood
No,
on
no,
their
no.
hands?
Why don't you let me finish? How about that? Okay?
I'm just
Okay?
asking.
Yes,
You
of
blamed
course.
Israel and you blamed...
They're so fucking smug. I beg for some karmic justice, man. Please. Please, at some point, please. Some semblance of justice in the planet. Please.
Sorry,
US, but we haven't heard Hamas yet.
I actually have one of my closest friends in college was blown up by Hamas. I have probably a lot more experience with suffering from Hamas, with all due respect, than you do. Let's say this. If we want to see who is more to blame for the starvation of children in Gaza, Hamas or Israel, let CNN in. Israel has not allowed Western journalists in since October 7th. Let them go in, let CNN go in, and decide for themselves. How about that?
How about Hamas releases the hostages and gets a ceasefire?
And let me think, what do you think would happen if Hamas
Peter,
released
just give me
the
one
hostages?
second. Scott, let me ask you a question, because Hamas is responsible for October 7th. Hamas is responsible for a lot of terrible things. But the question is, who can alleviate the starvation at this moment in Gaza? And does Israel have a responsibility to do much more than it is doing right now? And what do you say to that?
Well, my view is Hamas started the war. The suffering of the people in Gaza is their direct responsibility of what Hamas has done. Hamas took money for years, and instead of doing...
Yeah. You don't understand. You were, of course, against the Nelks interviewing Bibi, but I remember not so long ago you were trying to set up an interview with Obama, also a child murdering war criminal who should be tried at The Hague, even though... obviously, of course, not as many children and not genocidal. How do you reconcile that? Or would you have been adversarial in asking him about his war crimes? What do you think? Also, did you notice that that interview did not take place? Why do you think that interview did that interview never take place? Are you comparing an interview that I was not capable of conducting because of the adversarial questions that I had ready to go with the Nelk boys offering a platform to fucking Benjamin Netanyahu? Are you insane? I don't know if you noticed that, but I have not been able to interview Barack Obama. One must ask the question, why?
Anything for the people of Gaza, build tunnels
role in
for this
controlling
siege.
controlling the flow?
Question. I want to answer it.
But what about Israel's role in controlling the flow of food?
Yeah.
I just want us to set the table here, because I understand that there's a lot of political talking points around this, but this is a conversation about human beings and about the things that they need in order to survive, which is food,
Yes.
and water. And the question I have for you is there a moment for you where you sit here and you think, yeah, maybe more can be done? And at what point should the United States government say that?
Well, we are saying that. Number one, Hamas has weaponized aid. They've stolen.
I can't deal with Scott Jennings. Fucking Nazi scumbag. You can be as much of a Nazi as you want, as long as like the person that the group that you're like presenting yourself in opposition to is like vaguely Muslim enough or comprised mostly of Muslims, and you're defending the holy nation state of Israel, the most moral nation on the planet. That's it. You could just be like a straight up Nazi. Because that's what this is. Israel's a Nazi country, and its defenders are fucking Nazis. What is stopping these talking heads from starting their questions without mentioning Hamas? What do you mean? That's the only thing he thinks he can hold on to as a fucking effective counter, and it's actually ineffective at this point. Nobody gives a shit. What do you mean, Hamas? Oh, sorry, we have to keep starving Palestinian babies that people can see because Hamas, I guess. What the fuck? No, like, you have to be invested. You had to have already like developed a position that is so overwhelmingly pro-Israel to even entertain this fucking idiocy. You know what I mean?
Stolen it from the United Nations to resell it to finance their war. Some people think they've made $1 billion stealing and weaponizing this aid. That's not the United States doing. That's Hamas doing. That's number one. Number two, they've made unreasonable demands in these hostage negotiations. We're on the brink of a hostage deal and a ceasefire. They've blown that up today with Israel and now the United States having the...
Come on, Abby. Ask him what? What are the unreasonable demands Hamas has made? What is it? A permanent ceasefire? That's the unreasonable demand? Get this piece of shit to spell it out. Because that's what it is. Also, God, it's just like the amount of atrocity propaganda you can get away with doing because like Hamas is a fucking Muslim group and Palestinians are not treated like real human beings is so crazy. This is what it is. It's just like you can just say anything. Anything is Hamas. You can say they're stealing aid. They're actually starving the children personally. They're killing the children personally to make Israel look bad. And people will be like, oh, I guess he's right.
Walk away from an unreasonable situation. It is blatantly obvious that Israel and the United States wants the hostages home. They want a ceasefire and they want to feed the people in Gaza. Hamas does not.
Can I just add? The Israeli government's stated position is to support the Trump plan for the full expulsion of all Palestinians from Gaza. And I would remind you, there is no Hamas leadership in the West Bank. How are Palestinians being treated in the West Bank where Hamas is not in control, where there are no Hamas fighters? Palestinians are being expelled from their homes, living under conditions that even Israel's own human rights organizations call apartheid in the West Bank where there is no Hamas. So yes, Hamas does despicable things, but these talking points, with all respect, people don't believe them anymore. People don't believe them anymore.
All they have to do is release the hostages.
I just want to play, hold on a second, Scott. I want to play Cindy McCain.
All they have to do is release the hostages. Brother, number one, Israel's killed more hostages than Hamas has released. Number two, the only and effective way to actually release hostages is through a ceasefire process, and that's the only way hostages have been released in brought in large numbers. Number three, Hamas's quote unquote unreasonable conditions for the ceasefire is an actual ceasefire, an actual cessation of hostilities, and an aid and humanitarian aid to go in to the Strip. And last but not least, there are no remaining hostages. The people that Hamas has right now are prisoners of war. Okay? There are no more civilians or even like former enemy combatants that turned civilians and were kidnapped or whatever. Like none of that. No, these are all IDF soldiers. Unless you think they were kidnapped from a tank or kidnapped from a military base, they're just fucking soldiers. They're prisoners of war. Ironically enough, Israel has been starving them as well as everyone else on the Strip. We didn't even know what the conditions look like at this point. Are Hamas actually stealing aid, though? From what I know, they care about the Palestinians. No, of course they're not stealing aid, man. What are we talking about? No, there is zero evidence. Nothing. The only quote unquote evidence is it's not even evidence. It's just Israel says so. That's it. And for so many of these platforms is like, that's all it takes. Oh, Israel said so? All right, I guess we got to take it as truth then. On top of everything else, Hamas has actively tried to put together a ceasefire negotiation since October 10th, 2023. They've put forth more than 45 different ceasefire negotiations. And I say 45 and not like 4,500 at this point, because after the 45th time, the conditions that they set forth were damn near identical every single time, okay? Like, in some way, shape, or form, for the past 2 years, Hamas has been actively, desperately trying to put together a ceasefire negotiation. Israel has decided to not do that. Israel wants to use the existing hostages as a, or at least in the beginning, as a reason for why they have to do ethnic cleansing. That's it. That's it. There is no real interest from the Israeli side, from the Israeli government side, for a permanent solution, a permanent cessation of hostilities. They just want to do ethnic cleansing. It's not like they're hiding it. They're openly saying it too. It's not like Israel's like sheltering the public from their perspective. They're saying it. What's the statement? Like, the first casualty in war is the truth. It just feels so crazy that every single day that I've covered this, like, there are still people who come in here and they go, I'm confused. Like, why won't Hamas release the hostages or something? It's like, they are trying, man. They've been trying since fucking October 10th. Your talking points take too long. News will never let all that info be explained. You think news media will not let me explain my position because of the length of my talking points? There are people who are infinitely faster and way more clever than me. They don't get to speak about these positions on mainstream media as well. Plus, we don't really need to be on mainstream media at this point. The audience that I've been able to cultivate is large enough on its own. So worry not. The reason why mainstream media does not have positions like mine readily available is not because of the length. It's not because of how lengthy it is. It's because of what I'm saying. It's because I offer unconditional support. The chatter is correct in the sense that a TikTok 30-second point you have ready to go will reach 70 million new viewers tomorrow if you have that prepped. What? Oh my God. Okay. Hasan reminds me of a little bitch that always wants to be right. Let's unban this guy real quick. Here's the problem with that. You're offering... I'm going to unban him. I want to hear what he has to say. You're recognizing that I'm correct, and that's what pisses you off, which is so strange. Hasan reminds me of a little bitch that always want to be right. Wouldn't you rather always be right or want to be right and find the truth than to just admit that you're wrong all the time like you are currently? Like, this is what's so shocking to me, is that people will just be like, oh, this guy, he's always trying to be on the right side of history. It's like, well, don't you? Are you describing the process of fucking being a curious, an intellectually curious person who has a moral compass as a negative? Like, what the fuck? She is so on the opposite moral playing field as opposed to the living, breathing Meghan McCain and also the very much dead John McCain. I don't even understand how this can happen. Like, are they related? What do you mean? That's John McCain's wife. I don't understand how you could be married to John McCain and also be the executive director of the World Food Program and have been one of the most morally consistent voices on, and one of the most morally clear voices on the, widow, not wife. But, like, it doesn't make sense. Opposites attract. Bro, she had to pick from a dude born 80 years ago. She did her best. Nothing makes sense. It's like if Melania was like a socialist. Okay, this is like if Melania Trump came out as like a massive advocate for like socialism and was like actively hands-on combating capital owners on the streets or some shit. Because like she's there, you know what I mean? She's in and out of Gaza. She is actively feeding the children of Gaza. It's like if Melania Trump was like a Titoist, you know? It doesn't make any fucking sense. Yeah, Melania is a Yugoslav sleeper cell. Titoist Yugoslavia. She will restore it to its former glory. Just you fucking wait.
Cindy's right. Let me just say from the outset, Hamas is responsible for what happened in Gaza. They don't negotiate in good faith. They are a terrorist organization.
Oh, you fucking piece of shit. Stop making me hard. You're hard. That's weird. A helping hand is a helping hand no matter how dirty. Sometimes people just walk the walk, dude. No, I just don't understand how she was with John McCain, dude. That's what I'm saying. Like it's like fucking Ava Braun, like working hands-on in like releasing Jews from concentration camps. You know what I mean? Like that's the weird the weird juxtaposition of like what Cindy McCain is doing versus what John McCain had done and what he advocated for. Anyway, god damn it, dude. Every time I see one of these fucking absolute morons, these assholes, it's just like really ruins my day. First of all, we must say Hamas, 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 Hamas. Guys, have I talked about Hamas? Excellent. Hamas.
Having said that,
oh my God! Someone said, "Welcome to the world of straight women." Oh, that's so funny. That's like that meme. It's like girl who's like saying, "Hey, have you read this latest feminist literature?" And then the boyfriend is right next to her. It's like the most racist man alive T-shirt. That's Cindy McCain and John McCain. That's literally what that meme is. Yeah, Cindy, I can fix him, McCain. A real woke gap relationship. Yeah. Yeah.
Israel needs to be doing far more than they're doing to allow food to come in or to provide it themselves. And I mean, having spent much of the last 3 years in the Muslim world, you ought to see how the U.S. is being portrayed there for standing by and being silent, at least on this. Now, Hamas, they are a terrorist organization. I don't speak for them, but Israel needs to do more, and America needs to do more to force them to allow food.
Bro, these guys talk about Israel like there's a fucking gun pointed right at them off camera, just off camera. It's crazy. Like they're like, oh well, Israel needs to do more, but also Hamas, Hamas.
It's heartbreaking to see what's going on. I served meals in southern Turkey after the earthquake with somebody from World Central Kitchen, who later went to Gaza and was killed by a strike. Wow. They're serving meals there. It's a horrible situation. Anybody who can watch what we just watched and say, no, Israel's doing enough, the U.S. is doing enough, we're not.
Yeah, I mean, she said 400 distribution sites is what they typically would have to feed a population of that size. We're talking about 4 now. And then at those sites, I can show you the headlines. I mean, dozens killed in separate incidents over the course of the last several weeks, just trying to get aid at those sites, creating incredibly dangerous conditions. It just seems, Abel, at this moment, it's not actually asking all that much for there to be more than what is happening right now, because what's happening right now is clearly not even close to being enough.
Abby, to look at the images, obviously it's painful, especially I'm a father. There's a lot of us here who are fathers, to see these kids.
But Hamas. I like that in order to have Peter Beinart and Kat on there, Kat, who is literally, isn't she on this panel too? She's not talking at all, which is crazy. She's literally Palestinian, chat. She's she's fucking straight up Palestinian. So you got Peter Beinart, who is an outspoken critic of Israel. And you got Kat, who's Palestinian, surrounded by 3 old douchebag white Christian dudes who are just like constantly going, but Hamas, but Hamas, but Hamas. What the fuck is happening? They cut her out of the YouTube video. It was aired, though. She didn't get to say much.
Over the course of the last several weeks, just trying to, it just seems, Abel, at this moment, it's not actually asking all that much for there to be more than what is happening right now. Because what's happening right now is clearly not even close to being enough.
Abby, to look at the images, obviously it's painful, especially I'm a father. There's a lot of us here who are fathers, to see these kids. But then Hamas is just, you know, they portray.
He literally did it, by the way. I was joking when I paused it. He just straight up did that. He said, I'm a father, but Hamas. I'm a father, but Hamas. So we got to kill some of these kids, man. Sorry. They just happen to be also Palestinian, just like Hamas is Palestinian. Sorry. It is what it is. Some genocide has to keep going, you know, just a crumb of genocide.
As a political party, they're a syndicate. They're a gang. They are a terrorist organization. I've been to Sderot. I've been to Ashdod, little cities right next to Gaza. I mean, these kids wake up in the morning. There's a kazam coming over their head. They're going into these culverts that they paint them as snails so these kids can play in culverts to protect themselves. This is bad. President Donald J. Trump wants a couple of things. Scott mentioned it. He wants a ceasefire.
Bro, I can't watch this shit, man. They're such fucking animals. They're such demons, bro. They are such fucking animals. They're so disgusting. It's I don't know. It's just I can't do this. Here's what Kat said.
Every day in those little towns.
Gaza was under Israeli occupation. It has been under Israeli occupation since 1967. You know, most of the people in Gaza are not from Gaza. They're from families of refugees that were expelled from Israel in 1948. That's where they're there in the first place.
Let me let Kat have a word in. Go ahead.
I am from one of those families. My father's parents were Nakba survivors. I do not want Israeli children to live in fear, and I don't want Gazan children to starve to death. And there is no enemy of either state that could want me to wish that or excuse the starvation of children. It is that simple. Food is being blocked. It is being blocked. This is a man-made humanitarian disaster. It could stop at any point. We could be putting pressure on this.
Kat, they launch missiles from hospitals. They launch missiles from preschools.
Okay, there is
this is who Hamas is.
There is nothing.
Hold on a
no
second.
agency that
let me
could
just
excuse
ask you
this.
let me ask you to.
New York would do. They get kazams every day.
You know what I think is also crazy? I have a suspicion that Scott Jennings is going to go and run for office. And CNN is basically just creating the perfect environment for him to like win a Republican seat somewhere by offering him incredible amounts of unlimited influence and prominence and a fucking paycheck.